It just opens up the kind of the way I can do the chords, kind of, I can just do it different than just playing it as the guitar might stipulate. Just kind of trying to think outside the box a little bit.
You also did this with the different groupings and things like that too, where you use you use odd groupings, groupings of fives, groupings of sixes, and in your linear playing. And I didn't hear a lot of people doing that when I first heard you. It was so, whoa, that's amazing. And when you hear these odd groupings where things just don't line up in the same spot, it makes the lines more interesting sounding. And is that something that you just hear it that way?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the people that you learn from. And some people, they'll say like, oh, you have this original style, and I go, well, it's only original because it's the people I took from, And it was just I learned to play like the early Clapton blues breaker, that tone, I really love that tone, and of course Hendrix, and then later on, I really got interested in Bill Connors from Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy, Chick Corea, because he started opening up into more of this kind of fusion thing, but he had that kind of Clapton tone and that kind of bluesy thing, which caught my. I had heard some fusion before that, and I thought, yeah, that's cool, but it wasn't really making me. I want to learn to play that until I heard Bill Connors, and it was like, oh, he's got a little bit of that blues in him. So I was like, I want to learn that. So I think it was a combination starting with Clapton, and then Bill Connors, and then listening to McLaughlin, and then going back and listening to all these other cats, and then you start realizing there's all this magic in everything. And so as I was trying to accumulate these different people, I knew that centrally I wanted it to have a certain tone and a certain touch, which I tried to develop. So that was kind of the thread by putting all these styles together. And that's about. It's not necessarily that original. It's just the matter of the people that
it's just those particular
from
collection of influences, though.
Exactly.
But
it's true with anybody, I guess.
It's fascinating, though, the fusion influences like that. That's really that's fascinating to hear that.
Yeah. I think that kind of opened up my ear to almost like a little wider aperture on rock music, because like when John McLaughlin came out with Birds of Fire, and I'd go see John live, and it just the freedom, and it caught my ear, because especially when in the original he was playing like this SG through a Marshall stick, and he had this kind of like a Clapton tone, but he was playing all these crazy licks. I thought, this is really cool. I mean, I've always had this kind of like handicap where the sound has to reach me first, and then I'll listen to what somebody has to say, Otherwise, and I don't know if it's even that crazy, because I mean, music is sound,
Music is sound.
Does it connect with you? Does the sound, and I've always loved the sound of piano and that pure tonality, and so I've always kind of chased that with electric guitar, and then like a lot of the early cats, they had such a beautiful sound,
Now you're known as kind of a perfectionist, or you had been known as a perfectionist with your tone. And
I'm in recovery now.
You're in recovery.
Yeah. I just show up and play straight through the PA now. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Okay, how important? First of all, let's talk about this when you're playing a solo and the tone, the feedback you're getting from your amp to your hands. How important is having the right sound for you to feel like you can really play? I mean, are there some nights where your sound is so good that you just can play anything?
Yeah, no, that's really well said. It's totally true. It's for me. If it doesn't sound right, and it's almost like the sound is nice, but even more important is how does it feel?
Yeah.
How does the polarity of all the situation of events of the guitar and the amp and the acoustics feel to where it's like wind to your back? And I think the more stuff you run through, sometimes the harder it is to get that. It can wreak havoc with that. And then the electricity thing is really tough. Like if you get to a building that has a lot of dirty AC, it can really trash your sound out. And it's like
that's true.
Sometimes when I get to the gig, Dustin gentlemen I work with, we'll go around and try different AC plugs in the building to find one that's, and it's like, wow, that's like all of a sudden you go to like the bathroom hall, you know, and it's like you plug in there and it's like it sounds better. And it's just, all these things add up. And I mean, if you were to like pinpoint one, you go, well, that's silly, it's kind of obsessive, and I agree. But it's you getting 3% here, 3% there. All of a sudden, you know, you make 4 changes and your tone's 30% better.
Yeah.
But you know, the point is, I think, how can you construct something that's repeatable and not so complicated that it's impossible, you know. But it is important to me to make it feel right and make me want to play. You know.